Hey everyone! I'm Albert Boris. So, a few weeks ago, as of the release of this video, Super Mario Galaxy 2 finally came out on the Switch as part of a bundle of the first game. This is an event which, truthfully, should have already happened 5 years ago, when they came up with Super Mario 3D All-Stars, but a 5-year wait is at least not forever, because at long last Nintendo finally came to their senses. Or well, except for the price tag, that sucks. But yeah, I've long wanted a way to finally be able to play this game on a hybrid system and without the pesky Wii Remote sensor bar, so while I'm playing through it for the 7th time now, I thought, why don't I give you all a small treat in the meantime? Ranking all 42 galaxies in the first Super Mario Galaxy. This is a video that I was initially gonna save for November 1st, because you know, that's the anniversary of this game, but well, since it came out on Switch again just recently, I think this would be the perfect celebration of some of my first and most nostalgic Mario games ever getting re-released. That said, however, as much as I love these games, I have to admit that ranking the first game's levels was pretty tough, just because of how inconsistent the quality is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this game just because I grew up with it, but there's really some questionable decisions made with some of these stages. You can kind of divide this game's galaxies up into two groups. On the one hand, there's the robust galaxies. They're the big hitters where most of the effort went into, and while some of them are a little over-bloated due to the insistence that they always have to have 6 stars, they're definitely where the game shines. And then there's the mystery galaxies, which are just one-off missions usually centered around one specific gimmick, in the best case scenario. Most of the time they're just short, lazy, and feel like tech demos that were meant to be segments in the bigger stages. And it really sours the level selection as a whole, seeing as they take up the vast majority of galaxies. That's not to say that I didn't at least still enjoy most of the game's levels, but it's definitely a pretty alarming issue of the game, since it means the quality jumps a lot when playing through it. So with all of that being said, I say let's get started now and see what galaxies are the worst. Everybody raise your hand if you're surprised to see Snowcap Galaxy in last place. Yeah, that's what I thought. Unless Super Mario Sunshine is in the conversation, I don't think there's a 3D Mario level that's quite as discouraging to get through as this pill of shit. No cap. I already kind of hate bunny chasing as it is. It's monotonous and gets repeated way too many times in the game, and the music just annoys me to no end. And well, this galaxy not only reuses that idea once again for the 10,000th time, but it also goes the extra step of adding a bunch of other elements to make it even more agonizing. Don't like chasing one bunny? Well, how about 3? And let's also add a bunch of snow that slows you down. And also, you can't even find all of them until you step on all of these flip switches to gain access to the fire flower, since that's the only way to destroy some of their hiding spots. Oh yeah, and by the way, did I mention there's a motherfucking time limit as well? Even though 150 seconds should be enough time to find them all, I'm always left with only a few seconds left, just because the hunt after you find them is a sluggish challenge in its own right. And even though I understand that all of these additions was to give it more substance than the other bunny missions, it just becomes a drag in execution. And the fact that it's all what this galaxy is what really stings. And it sucks even more because the core aesthetic of this level is actually kind of charming, being a sort of snowy and grassy planet with a concrete building underneath. I just wish it could have been fleshed out to its fullest potential for a robust galaxy, instead of being wasted away as a tiny pill for these bunnies. Actual hot or rather cold garbage. Get this stage out of my sight. That was a lot more said than expected. Another stage that I absolutely dread going back to is Boo's Boneyard Galaxy. Seriously, 3 missions in the entire game with the Boo Mushroom, and one of them is wasted away on a boring race with the Speedster. The Boo Mushroom is, admittedly, probably my favorite power-up to come out of this game, just because it's kind of fun to be able to fly around at your own will. But because it's also slow, it does not suit itself well for a race. It's not as obnoxious as bunny chasing, and at least there's some wind currents to push it down faster, but overall, it still feels pretty damn sluggish, and the fact that it's in 2D just makes it even less interesting. Yet again, this is another level with a potentially amazing setting that was wasted away on a gimmick star. Just throw it all out. Slingpod Galaxy, the third worst stage, is the only one of the F-tier galaxies where the theme didn't leave me wanting more. It sure makes a decent use of the sling pods, having you throw yourself from pod to pod. Too bad they're also inherently a frustrating mechanic. If your aim is just slightly off, which believe me, it will be because it's motion controlled, well, you might as well just start over again. At least it's short and you can take your time unlike the bottom two, and I suppose it's a nice place to farm for star bits, but otherwise this stage is just miserable, and I'm always happy when it's over. Well, at least those are the only 3 genuinely horrible galaxies. Not that that's saying much though, because we still have the D tier to get through, which is where a good chunk of galaxies are gonna end up. This is for the levels that aren't necessarily unfun, but calling them galaxies would also be an insult to all of the actually good and developed areas of the game. And opening up this tier, we have Loop the Loop Galaxy at number 39. This one is ultimately harmless, but also really dull. Between all of the motion-controlled gimmicks in the game, the Manta surfing is probably the least finicky one, and not one I ever really struggled with, although unfortunately, this level is also just boring as shit. You just do one lap on this floating water circuit and you win. It's not hard, the theme is bland, as it's just a floating water track in the middle of nowhere, and on the whole, it's just a tiny tutorial for a mechanic that's barely even used in the game to begin with. And for goodness sake, why are there star bits scattered along the track that I can't even grab due to the pointer being disabled? It's just so poorly thought out and uninteresting. And while I can see myself playing through the level just to get more stars, I'm always left feeling apathetic. Except that one time I died falling off even though I crossed the finish line. F*** you. A more difficult stage to rank though was Grand Finale Galaxy. So, fun fact, I never actually played this level until like half a year ago, and that was just for my Dome ranking video. The only way to unlock it is by playing through the entire game again, but with Luigi, after you get every star as Mario. Something I never bothered to do growing up. It's a cheap and repetitive waste of time I could use on other games, or for that matter, other hobbies. And while considering this is the only reward for it, I don't think I missed out on much. It's certainly a cute surprise, letting you explore Toad Town from the intro cutscene but without Bowser now, but it's also pretty much just a straight line leading up to Peach's castle. You get the purple coins on the way up there and that's it. It's kind of hard to even call the level, and considering you can barely even explore the stage anyways, it's not even that fun as fan service either. Overall, not annoying, kinda charming, but hardly engaging. Another really boring stage is Rolling Green Galaxy. This one, like Loop the Loop, is also essentially just a glorified gimmick tutorial, this time for the ball rolling. There's a couple of flat green platforms here and there, and that's pretty much it. Once again, the setting feels fake and unnatural, and while it's at least somewhat of a challenge, plus collecting coins and star bits is kind of fun, it really should have just been part of a bigger Plainside themed level. It's pretty mid overall, and no, the fact that it's green is not gonna yield it any bonus points. I love green, but come on, I'm not that easily swooned over. A slightly more organic looking level though would be Sweet Sweet Galaxy at number 36. This one is just a no-nonsense obstacle course, having you hop your way across these moving platforms with giant holes in them. There aren't any weird gimmicks or anything, it's just a short and admittedly kind of engaging challenge. Unfortunately, it also looks absolutely putrid. I already think candies and sweet products are kind of overrated in terms of hype, and this stage does not really do it justice. The bright pastel colors and texture work, ugh, it makes me want to vomit. It looks way too bland and unhealthy. And again, it's also just a super small obstacle course in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to it beyond that. Apparently, the original name for this stage was gonna be Cookie Factory Galaxy, and that just makes me sad thinking about how much more intriguing this could have been. Also, screw the Mario Bros. 3 Athletic remix. It sounds so dull and so quiet, but it makes the otherwise upbeat melody sound burnt out and drained of energy. Just what a waste of a concept overall once again. 30 seconds and you're done. Wow. Now, Hurry Scurry Galaxy right after is a level that at least delivers on the atmosphere. Somewhat. This one definitely creeped me out a bit as a kid. The idea of having this tiny planet where every platform you touch disappears really gives you that dreadful and urgent feeling that there's nothing you can do, except try and get all of the music notes before the black hole sucks you in. I especially like trying to get every platform tile to disappear once I'm done, and then just long jump to see how long you can go without touching the star. Unfortunately, that's also kind of it though. The whole level is pretty much over as soon as it starts, and while the concept is certainly a bit intriguing, it's hardly enough to hold up an entire level, when this is the exact kind of stage it feels like a tech demo. And besides, Seaslide Galaxy reused it anyways for one of its secret stars, which makes this stage feel even more useless in the end. It's also really easy, so yeah, go figure. And oh, would you look at that, Flip Switch Galaxy right next also feels like a tech demo. Just hit all of the blue question mark panels and you're done for dinner. At least this one has a bit more hazards to worry about, whether it's these lasers or spiky platforms moving around, and I also somewhat fancy the retro NES skybox, but even though stepping on all of the switches is kinda satisfying, why on earth is this its own level? Just put it somewhere in Good Egg Galaxy instead and call it a day. This should not be a dedicated galaxy. With that though, we're finally out of the functionally bad galaxies as we move on to the C tier, which while we still have a couple of fairly lacking stages to delve into, at least these ones do leave the tiniest bit of an impression and don't entirely bore me. Heck, some of these are actually quite okay. This time, starting with yet another mystery stage, Honeyclimb Galaxy. Oh hey, it's that boring athletic remix again. But yeah, it's just a pretty neat challenge, making your way through these moving honey walls, and the mandibugs and meteors provide a nice challenge to ensure it stays engaging. It's probably the single most bearable use of B Mario in the entire game in fact, just because the more slow-paced layout of the level makes the otherwise sluggish B power-up feel a little less boring. And unlike all of the other mystery galaxies I've talked about so far, this one does actually have multiple sections and isn't over in just 30 seconds, so that's nice. However, the theme is still boring and bland as all can be, and it really should have remained a Secret Star segment for Honey Hive Galaxy instead. Like, did we really need a whole level just for this? I don't think so. Now, this next one is special. Dusty Dune Galaxy, our first of the 15 robust levels on the list. This one is pretty commonly agreed to be the worst of them all, and for a very simple reason. It's so agonizing. I'm not gonna hold the desert theming itself to shame, I do actually think it's got a bit of a relaxing vibe, but there are so many gimmicks that just slow the gameplay down so much. There's sand currents that push you in one direction, these tornadoes you glide slowly from, and so many segments that just consist of waiting. Oh yeah, and don't forget all the insta-kill quicksand everywhere as well. Look, it's one thing to be a slower paced stage, it's another to intentionally drag it out with sluggish gameplay. And there's 7 different missions? Why does this one get so many? And I can't even be mad at it because they're actually all fairly different to justify it. The ideas were certainly there, and none of the stars feel like filler, like in a few of the other robust galaxies. But there's so many ingredients to make this level an egregious experience, and yet I'm surprised I ended up putting it in C tier despite all of this. I don't know if I just became more tolerant of the pace on my latest playthrough, but you know what? The fact that this game has so many throwaway 1-star galaxies makes me at least appreciate the level of effort put into this one. It does feel like an actual galaxy, and for what it's worth, the theme, as I said, is relaxing to the point that sometimes I can barely tolerate all of the excruciatingly slow mechanics. There are some genuinely fun sections, like when you need to lead a bullet bill to a star cage, or this glass tower you need to climb to the, top of, I think? And even some of the other slow-going bits are kind of fun and engaging still, like this tower where you look for silver stars. So when you take all of this into consideration, there's definitely a bit of charm still here. Is Dusty Dune Galaxy still tedious? Yes, but it is fairly charming as well. And I don't think it deserves to die in a fire anymore. Now, back to a smaller stage, the Gateway Galaxy is one that I was never really particularly enamored with growing up, and now that I'm an adult, I still think it's underwhelming, all things considered. I mean, the main planet is certainly beautiful, I love how emotional its atmosphere is, and its whole connection to Rosalina's backstory, but here's the thing, this is pretty much just a tutorial for 2 things. 1, the rest of the game, and 2, the red star power-up. The latter is pretty kick-ass, allowing you to fly around the main area to look for purple coins, even if there's not anything else. As a tutorial for the game as a whole though, well, you pretty much just go from tiny planet to tiny planet, killing Goombas, and then turn off some flip switches to get the first Grand Star. I mean, it works, it's not actively unfun, and I guess it does the bare minimum to get you in the galaxy mood, but I don't know, it's pretty basic and unimaginative theme-wise, and there's certainly more intriguing starter levels in the series. And there is also bunny chasing, so minus points for that. Overall, I definitely prefer the Galaxy 2 approach, where the first level was just, you know, the actual first level of World 1, since it allowed for a much more interesting and developed stage to serve as a first impression. As it is, this one is harmless, but pretty boring too. I barely cared at all. Bowser Jr.'s lava reactor is pointless. Out of all the ways they could have ended the penultimate dome of the game, why with a refight with King Caliante? You know, a boss from the first level? I mean, yeah, sure, it's harder now since there's meteors and the platforms sink if you stay too long on them, but was there really not anything more climactic for this time and place in the game? It's fortunate that I still love King Caliante and his back and forth tennis style gameplay as much as I do, because outside of that, there's nothing at all. You lead a bullet bill to a launch star, defeat some octopi, and then you're here. It's hardly a level at all, and the fact that the Bowser Jr. stages in this game are so short and lacking like this is a huge bummer. Thank God Galaxy 2 improved them so much. Oh boy, this next one is gonna be controversial. I can feel it in my extraterrestrial bones. Good Day Galaxy is, in my opinion, a very average level 1, as far as the Mario franchise goes. I understand why so many people have fallen for it. After all, the theme is absolutely monumental, with one of the proudest and most invigorating songs in the game, and the starting planet perfectly demonstrates the gravity gimmick of the game, with some pretty cool set pieces. But here's the thing, beyond that, this level is just a bunch of tiny and uninteresting planets. You don't really do anything on most of them, as much as you're just trying to get through them to the end, and a lot of them also feel entirely disconnected in terms of theme. Is it cool that some of them are based on fruits such as an apple, a peanut, or a bean? Yeah, maybe to an extent, but it's also hard for me to care about them when mostly they're just boring spheres with some enemies and grass and whatnot, without any engaging platforming. Like, I don't give a crap about this rock or this egg. There's very little of genuine substance here, aside from the atmosphere. And that's despite the fact that this is also one of the few levels with a split path for one of its stars. In general, this galaxy just feels really incohesive, and it's clear that the focus was more on the style over the substance. It's certainly enjoyable enough to play, and even has 2 really fun boss fights, but while I suppose it works as an okay introduction to what this game will be like, I can't say I ever personally felt a connection to it because of the reasons I mentioned, and so it's just fine. Oh hey, look, it's another Bowser Jr. galaxy right next on the list. Bowser Jr.'s Robot Reactor. To be honest, there's not much to say about this one either. It's got most of the same problems as the Engine Room one, in that it's pretty much just a boss arena and that's it. However, because Mega Leg is also one of the most epic boss fights in the game, plus it tonally at least makes sense as the World 1 ender in terms of challenge, it gets a few bonus points from those factors alone. What can I say, climbing up a giant mech robot is really cool. That said, after finding out a few days ago that the level building up to it was gonna be this giant fortress first, with Mega Leg waiting at the bottom after dropping through a hole at the top, I also remembered how nothing the actual stage in-game is, so I can't rank it high just on the boss alone. Still, Bowser Jr.'s Robot Reactor is something, I suppose. Now, Bowser's Galaxy Reactor is, in my opinion, probably the weakest final Bowser level in any 3D Mario game. Actually wait, Corona Mountain is worse, but this one is also kind of underwhelming. The best I can say about it is that the music is admittedly pretty epic, even if it's not quite as daunting as I'd hoped for. But the problem is that it just doesn't really feel like a climactic build-up for the last showdown. Like with Good Egg Galaxy, it's just a mess of tiny planets, except they're even less cohesive here. You'll go from a random lava planet to an ice one, suddenly a desert, to then some platforms of changing gravity, and it all feels completely disconnected with no semblance of continuity. And I get that that's the point because Bowser doesn't care, he's just trying to build as big of an empire as possible, but for final level, it just feels whatever in execution. Again, most of these sections are not interesting. The only truly epic bit was that 360 cylindrical lava tunnel at the end, and I guess the castle walls at the start. Otherwise, it's really underwhelming, and it doesn't even feel like a final test of skills. It barely makes a challenging use or use at all of this game's gimmicks. I hate to keep comparing it with Galaxy 2, but Galaxy 2 did this far better. But surely, the final battle makes up for it all, right? No, it's virtually the exact same thing as the other Bowser fights, except with 2 additional phases before, where you try to hit him in boulder form and then with those plants. I mean, props for taking mechanics we've learned about, but for a last showdown, it's kinda lame. And then for the last phase that's supposed to be the true last stand, Bowser goes down in just 2 hits. I barely even got to hear what is one of the most epic final boss themes ever. At least the ending cutscene and all that is beautifully emotional, even if the whole universe going down was a little overkill. But yeah, as a whole, this was a pretty mediocre final level. I certainly get what they were going for, and at least it does have more of a reason for being incohesive, unlike Good Egg Galaxy. But while it functions as a last level, again, it's not unfun, it definitely felt minimal in length and intrigue, so it's staying low. And right next, we have the infamous Sea Slide Galaxy at number 26. To be honest, for all its faults, this one has always been a bit of a comfort stage for me. The whole concept of a beach level that's just a giant ring surrounding an island is certainly bizarre, but unlike the loop-de-loop style galaxies, this one at least feels organic in its theme. The fact that they were able to give it so much personality and so many different set pieces inhabiting this place, whether it's this lighthouse, this cavern, or this giant pine tree, is pretty commendable and made me always want to visit this place in real life. It's kind of my scrimbly bimbly, you might say. And it's why the exploration-based missions, including the purple coin star, are surprisingly charming. The problem with the level, of course, though, is the fact that the other half of the missions are generic as all can be. Like, did we really need 2 stars where you just race around the track? And also, while it did just praise the exploration-based elements of the stage, the fact that most of it has to be done with the sluggish B power-up does halter some of my enjoyment for that as well. So yeah, cool idea, but so-so execution, resulting in a just average Galaxy in the end. At least the Hurry Galaxy is more interesting here though, just because being able to fly over some of the platforms gives me a few more opportunities for how to tackle the star. At number 25, we have Loop the Swoop Galaxy, the other Manta Ray level. This is part of the Planet of Trials special world and basically serves as a much harder take on the whole manta racing gimmick. And it's actually quite tough this time, with lots of narrow roadways and turns. And the layout does actually have some pretty fun standout sections as well now, such as this loop and also several big jumps. Honestly, it's a really memorable challenge now, and while the theme and setting is still as unnatural and fake as all can be, I'm able to let that go slightly here, to the extent that it's honestly even more fun than Sea Slide Galaxy. There's also a 3-minute time limit, but come on, that's pretty generous for a 1-minute track. But yeah, this was a pretty solid surprise, all things considered. Even if, after playing Mario Kart World, I wish you could trick off of the waves, but I digress. It's short but fairly sweet. However, the award for the galaxy with the most missed potential though would have to go to the Sand Spiral Galaxy. Dude, I love the idea of having a segment where you get the choice of which power-up you want to use to get across a deadly pit of land. It makes for a shockingly replayable level to come back to, despite there only being one mission. I personally tend to pick the Boom Mushroom over the B one because while you have to avoid a light, it's also more efficient than having limited flight time. But I mean, hey, B Mario poses a nice challenge too, since you have to be careful and not waste your flight. But then once you get past all of that, all you have is just a couple of platforms spinning around the shiny moon, and it's already over. Why? If there's any mystery galaxy that should have gotten expanded on, it's absolutely this one, just because of how creative it is in the little time it does get to shine. It's genuinely had an amazing idea, and heck, even the ending segment, as short as it is fun where it's at, since you get access to an invincibility star you can run into mines with. I almost feel bad about only putting this in C tier, but because it only feels like half a level, I feel like it would sit odd in B tier, which has levels I wouldn't even consider to be close to Sand Spiral Galaxy in quality, so yeah. Finally, we've reached the B tier now though. Now we can finally talk about some galaxies that are actually genuinely good, even if they still certainly have issues holding back. And this time, we're starting with Bubble Breeze Galaxy, which is the first mystery galaxy on the list that's both original and sufficient enough in length. This one is based all around the bubble mechanic, in which you trap Mario in a bubble and then blow it with the cursor to move him across a poisonous swamp. It's a really relaxing and yet anxious test of your patience. Do you want to take it slowly, or do you want to get through the maze quickly but risk hitting a space mine? The choice is yours, and the theme that goes along with it is incredibly atmospheric to top it off. It's just a really nice level overall, even if I prefer stages with a faster pace, so I think it's a deserving choice of opening up the good tier. Now, do you want to hear about the stage that really freaked me out as a kid though? Enter Drip Drop Galaxy. The moment I first landed on this desolate water planet, something felt wrong. Whether it was the darkness of space looming just over the atmosphere, the eerie soundtrack, or the implications that these penguins are starving due to the gringos haunting the waters, the undertones were unlike anything else in this game, despite the still generally bright color scheme. And hey, what's that alarming noise that keeps getting louder and faster? Hello? What the fuck is that? Why is it so bright and long? Somebody help me. Yeah, the first time I stumbled upon the torpedo tits in this game, I was pretty taken aback by the fact that they didn't just look like a normal underwater bullet bill. Instead, they were these stretched out monstrosities. Technically, my first encounter with them were in Buoy Base, but here they too add to that uneasy feeling of this level, since nothing in these waters is safe. Nowadays, I love how creepy the torpedo heads look, but growing up, yeah, that haunted a lot of my nightmares. Granted, Drip Drop Galaxy isn't really that big of a stage, it's just one small planet, and once you take out the Gringles, you're done, but just for the vibes alone, I have to give this level credit where it's due, and it always stuck with me because of this dreadful atmosphere. That said, trying to find the star after defeating all of the eels can be a bit of a pain at times. Next though, at number 21, let's talk about Bowser Jr.'s Airship Armada. Wait, a Bowser Jr. stage that's actually good in this game? Yeah, who could have thunk? Granted, it's still not mind-blowing, you just go from airship to airship, something which has already been done in a previous galaxy, but hey, it's still certainly epic to charge yourself through this enemy fleet. And you also get a simple, but still a really engaging direct confrontation with Bowser Jr. It's a short, but just a plain fun stage overall. Perfect for opening up the top half of this ranking. Boy, I can't wait to glaze Mario Galaxy 2's Bowser Jr. forts though. Those are some masterpieces, I'm telling you. One day I'll rank that game's Galaxies too. On the other side though, one level archetype that I've always felt rather indifferent toward are the titular Bowser stages themselves in these games. I mean, I don't know, they're pretty typical castle levels for the most part. Oh wait, we're not talking about Galaxy 2. Yeah, never mind. In the first game, the Bowser Reactor stages are actually pretty neat, aside from the last one. The first one, Bowser Star Reactor, is a climactic enough road to Bowser, with some dangerous enemies and neat subversions of gravity. And the cherry on top is of course the beautifully foreboding remix of Mario 64's Koopa Road playing. It's still a somewhat basic stage for this game's standards, but it does what it needs to do, plus the theme is at least cohesive, unlike in Galaxy Reactor. Although, I kinda have to talk about how confusing the actual Bowser fight itself was as a kid. There's not really too much indication as to what it is you're supposed to do, and the fact that you're meant to get him to ground pound these arbitrary blue spots feels like something you discovered by accident, which feels a little cheap. When I do know what to do, it's enjoyable enough, but yeah, it's not the most interesting Bowser fight ever. Good level though. Next, Big Mouth Galaxy at number 19 has only one very simple premise. Get into the dark underwater cave, collect the star chips, get the golden shell, and then swim back to the start to unlock this golden chest. On the surface, it doesn't seem like much, literally. However, just like with Drip Drop Galaxy, it's another stage where despite a short length, the atmosphere does such a good job at leaving an impression on you. It's secluded, a little eerie, but also oddly comforting in its darkness as well. And it also helps with the swimming controls are the swiftest they've ever been in Mario here. It's just a really cozy level overall, without any notable setbacks plaguing the experience. Finally we're back to another robust galaxy. Honey Hive Galaxy is perhaps the first of many stages on the list that's primarily made up of one huge open area and then some smaller planets and segments to the side that you can reach as part of the missions. And with a huge open area, you get tons of opportunities for exploration and just messing around. I've always had a preference for levels like this in gaming, just because having the freedom to look for secret areas that aren't integral to your journey makes the stages pop out and feel more alive. And while this level specifically pales compared to some of the better ones, as the setting is still fairly basic, it's a nice stepping stone for the rest of the game, especially since it's the only good galaxy in the Terrace world. Do you see why this game didn't enamor me at first? That said, I also have to address the elephant in the room, which unfortunately makes this galaxy a little more frustrating than it's worth to play at times. Lo and behold, the bee mushroom. I've slandered it quite a lot in this video already, so I figure that it's about time that I maybe delve a little more in-depth into my thoughts on it. But basically, I just don't like how much it limits Mario's core controls. Having the power of flight is cool, but the fact that it's so slow to move and turn around while flying just makes it feel more like a drag than anything to get to places. And running out of flight power when you've almost reached an area is just the worst feeling ever. Even when you're just walking around normally, you're so much more limited in what you can do. So while I don't want to say that it's an awful power-up, it's certainly creative and conceptually cool, it just has too many drawbacks to make it worthwhile. And considering what a big part it is of this level, yeah, I can't be more generous than to give it B. Still, Honey Hive Galaxy is pretty solid overall, for all of its strengths. Back to another mystery galaxy though, I think everyone can agree that Rolling Gizmo Galaxy probably has the single hardest non-prankster comet star in the game. Similar to how Loop the Swoop is a harder test on Manta Racing, this one is kind of the ultimate special world ball rolling challenge, and challenging would be a generous way of putting it. There are so many narrow and constantly moving gears and gadgets you have to get across, and it really forces you to be careful unlike any other mission. Often to the point of annoyance, but while the Star Ball is certainly pretty hard to balance on, at least relative to other motion controlled mechanics, since any slight wrong move will send you to your doom, it's not unfair. It's still perfectly responsive, so it doesn't feel like the game's fault when you fail. And oh boy, while the theme is a bit too out there, I also can't get enough of how weird and mesmerizing it is. I love all the bright colors and strange gizmos that make up the galaxy, and it really brings out the inner child in me. So overall, it's an annoying but ultimately really unique level that deserves my praise. However, one level which perhaps best captures the essence of what Super Mario Galaxy is all about would have to be the beloved Space Junk Galaxy. Holy shit, 18 years later, and this is still probably the most beautiful level to come out of both games. It's definitely the closest the Galaxies come to feeling like you're venturing through uncharted space. It's vast and desolate, almost a bit scary in fact, but also incredibly soothing as well. The whole stage is pretty much just a bunch of, well, space junk that you navigate your way through. However, while as a result it's another galaxy without a really well-defined structure, I think it's far more acceptable that it's like this here than it's a good galaxy. Just because the whole point of it is that you're supposed to be alone in this giant void. Or well, until the random airship siege mission shows up, that one feels kind of out of place, especially as the second mission, although at the same time I also love Kamala, so who cares. Overall, it's definitely a galaxy to remember though, and while I do find it a tad bit boring as well, just because I still think the more well-defined stages are more enjoyable to navigate, I respect this one enough, so B tier once again. Next up is Bonefin Galaxy, and this one is, dare I say it, absolutely kingly. At least by Mystery Galaxy standards in this game. Up until this point on the list, while we've had some fairly decent one-off stages to talk about, this is the first one that didn't leave me underwhelmed in any shape or form. And it's all because of Kingfin, the by far League's best boss fight in the entire game. Holy crap, they did not need to go so hard on him. His presentation is absolutely frightening, he takes 5 hits instead of the usual 3, and the fact that you constantly have to be aware of your air meter to make sure you don't drown adds a sense of pressure not seen in the other fights, and it helps that Mario Galaxy's swimming controls are as swift and responsive as they are. Honestly, they should have made this the final boss of the 5th world instead of King Caliante, just because Kingfin is far more unique and would have been a perfect preparation for the last world. But you know, I guess Nintendo thought it would be too hard, but whatever. I don't want to put this stage any higher than this because the boss only level is still pretty tiny in scale, but just for the sheer quality alone of the fight, I think it's fair for it to at least open up the top 15 on the list. Next, at number 14, we have Bowser's Dark Matter Plant. Hey, wait a minute, where are the plants in this stage? Nintendo actually clickbaited me, this is unreal. Aside from that though, it's a solid step up from the first Bowser level. I think the insta-kill dark matter that dissipates you is a great way to raise the difficulty while also being a genuinely creepy concept, and while there is a lot of waiting to be done in this level, while you're on these platforms taking you through rooms with differing gravity, my autism brain also likes seeing different directions being represented by specific colors, so I guess you can call some bias on that one. On one hand, it does suck when you make it nearly all the way to the end, but then make a mistake and have to slug it through all again. I also don't know how you would screw that up unless you had no patience, so yeah, I don't think that's a problem. That said, why does my favorite direction, left, get represented by a boring grey? Why not just yellow or any other real color? That always kinda bothered me, as someone who always loved left, but whatever, at least Galaxy 2 gave it a beautiful new purple. Thank you so much, Nintendo. Next, at number 13, Gusty Garden Galaxy is kinda like Goody Galaxy if it were actually quite good. I don't think it would be too controversial to state that the presentation of this stage is absolutely mesmerizing. I mean, dude, there's so much green, how can I not love it? It's absolutely flourishing with lush vegetation everywhere, and while the galaxy does commit the glaring sin of it mostly just being a bunch of small planets without much to do, the fact that it largely stays true to the garden aesthetic all the way through ensures that the galaxy still feels coherent. Even if the third mission does go a little off the deep end. But I mean, come on. Even if you, like me, think this galaxy is quite overhyped, I still don't think you can deny how impeccably beautiful the atmosphere is. It's easily the most hopeful and optimistic in any stage from this game, and while the Gusty Garden OST is absolutely overplayed in this day and age, it doesn't make it less of an amazing song, even if it's not quite my favorite one. So overall, this is a slightly overrated galaxy, but overrated doesn't mean not good. I quite like it. And lastly, closing off the B tier, Gold Leaf Galaxy at a first glance does seem to be a pretty lazy attempt at the stage, as it just looks like a mirrored version of Honey Hive, except also with an autumn aesthetic. But actually, I'd rather call it Honey Hive if it was just better in almost every way. And it's not just because the orange color scheme gives it a more unique look. More importantly though, it also just has way more interesting missions that not only make it a more enjoyable experience, but also makes it stand out from Honey Hive to the extent that calling it a copy would be doing it a huge disservice. Sure, the first mission is kinda lame at the end with the bunny chasing, although at least you get plenty of exploration on the main planet beforehand, but then the second mission has you using cataquacks to jump from planet to planet. And then the third star has you parkouring up this new wooden structure that wasn't there before. And while the bee mushroom is still used pretty prevalently, it's not at all the main focus like it is in Honey Hive. And heck, even the secret star is kinda cool, where you need to collect these notes hidden behind this giant tree. It's just a really solid galaxy all around, without too many problems, but while I don't think it's too mind-blowing, I wouldn't mind giving it a high score, even if it's still not interesting enough to be an A tier. But with that, we have now reached the A tier at long last. Finally, I can talk about some galaxies that I actually really freaking love, even if they're not quite near perfect. The fact that it took us until the top 11 for us to even reach this point though, yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think this game is that amazing. However, Beach Ball Galaxy certainly is. In fact, this might be my favorite beach-themed level to come out of any Mario-related game. As mentioned previously, the swimming controls of this game are just so unusually good that it makes the otherwise slow-going and monotonous swimming actually kind of fun. Being able to spam the spin twirl to just dash through the waters makes it far less tedious to explore the vast seafloor. And the above water segments are pretty soothing to just walk around on as well. It definitely has its faults. I think for a more open world based Galaxy, it's a little bit small in scope, and I think Honey Hive and Gold Leaf definitely had more secrets to find, but just for the relaxing and beautiful atmosphere, I'd still definitely rather mess around here. And I mean, hey, aside from the mission where you just steal a golden shell, the stars are actually pretty unique, like the one where you have to use an ice flower to climb up waterfalls, or the one where you discover a hidden cave that leads to the surrealistic stone cyclone. I suppose I might be a little bit too generous with this Galaxy, but honestly, it's really well developed and comforting in its atmosphere, so I don't think I'm having any second thoughts about this placement. And same for Matter Splatter Galaxy, opening up the top 10. Finally, a mystery galaxy that isn't over in 2 minutes and actually pushes its gimmicks to the fullest potential. I thought its mechanic was neat in Ghostly Galaxy as well, but this stage really gives the Matter Splatter gimmick a run for its money. It's such a bizarre gameplay element where parts of the level constantly appear, then disappear and move around, and it makes for an engaging challenge where you always have to pay attention to make sure you don't accidentally fall off. I love the eerie green background in some places, adding further to this realistic atmosphere, and it's also one of the few levels where Spring Mario doesn't actively annoy me, in part due to his controls being restricted to 2D here. It's just a really freaking good time overall, even if the ending section does drag a bit. Another really solid Mystery Galaxy is the Bubble Blast Galaxy, the best of the 3 Planet of Trials challenges. This one serves as the ultimate bubble blowing test, and it's pretty insane to say the least. Not enough that all of the walls are made of electricity, forcing you to be even more steady with your movements. But for the last stretch, you can't even be patient as you're getting constantly followed around by bullet bills, ready to strike you. Heck, there's pretty much always something that can kill you at any given time if you blow slightly the wrong way. But while it is absolutely brutal, it is once again really fair, thanks to the responsive motion controls. Or well, at least it is on the Switch. And there's also a checkpoint halfway through, so that's nice. I was a bit unsure on whether I prefer this or Rolling Gizmo, but while that one definitely has the more mesmerizing aesthetic, this one just feels more developed in its length, so I figure it deserves to get the edge. At the end of the day, Rolling Gizmo is still a bit generic in execution, and doesn't really develop on the ball mechanic as much. But do you want to know what I think is the most underrated galaxy though? Well, that would have to be the Deep Dark Galaxy at number 8. This is probably the weirdest, eeriest, and most intriguing level in the entire game, and I wanted so badly to put this at number 1. It's definitely the black sheep of all the galaxies in terms of ideas and execution, and while there is a bit of wasted potential, it's one of those levels that I just keep thinking back on even multiple decades after. On the surface, it seems like a beach level, although instead of being bright and cheerful, it's more so dark and ominous. There's an air of uneasiness, like something isn't right here, and that feeling only further gets amplified once you find out that there's an inflatable replica of the Gateway Galaxy just chilling here. And then you stumble upon this cave inside a mountain, and you discover a giant underground lake that stretches on for miles down. And it's just such an unsettling but also super interesting location. Bubble Blast Off in particular is probably one of the most unorthodox missions in the game. Like, you start off by defeating a boss, then climb up the mountain, and then you suddenly get sent across different planets using bubbles, until you eventually have the ground pound tennis balls into a watermelon. What? There's really no other galaxy like this one, and the only reason it's not higher is because unfortunately the other 2 missions aren't that unique, even if I still quite like them. The first one is just a fight with Camella, which is good, but a pretty unoriginal rehash, and the third one just has you following Guppy around at the bottom of the lake, because he sure was a fun mechanic the first time, right? You know, what if the bottom of this lake was instead actually Bonefin Galaxy, and when you swim down to it, you get jump scared by a boss fight with the terrifying Kingfin? Now that would have traumatized me as a kid, and perfectly fit in with the already unsettling atmosphere. Yet again, that's another better use of Kingfin than just putting him in a random mystery galaxy. Oh yeah, and the secret star is fine, I guess, whatever. However, I still love Deep Dark Galaxy for what it is, even if it could have been even cooler. A slightly more consistent experience though would probably be Melty Molten Galaxy at number 7, and this is a pretty damn epic one. I'm not even too big on the lava theme myself most of the time, but as the very last of the 15 big galaxies in the game, it almost perfectly acts as a climactic last challenge for you, before the big showdown. The soundtrack is among the most courageous and dangerous sounding in the game, and there's a whole lot of elements that come together to make for a daunting and yet satisfying last impression. From the volcano you can fall into, the sinking lava spire, numerous other sections that push the game's mechanics to their limits, and even a boss fight with a fiery Dino Piranha as the last mission, which perfectly loops back to how Dino Piranha was the first mission of the first Galaxy. That said though, am I the only one that didn't struggle with the Daredevil combat in this Galaxy? I mean sure it was hard, but come on, this is nothing compared to some of the Galaxy 2 missions. But yeah, you might be wondering why this level isn't any higher if it's so spectacular. After all, none of the missions are unenjoyable, and the first and third stars might even be flawless in their execution. Well, unfortunately, I feel like there's a bit of wasted potential with the second and secret stars. Star 2 in particular is just an amalgamation of different mechanics, which while fun, don't really have anything to do with each other, except that there are meteors raining down on some of the planets. And then it ends in the most random way possible with a star rolling segment. As a result, the journey leading up to it mostly just feels like filler to pad out the runtime. And it also doesn't help that the one planet with little cinders gets reused for all 3 of the main stars. And in the second mission you do the exact same thing here as in the first one, collect the star chips. It's almost like they were running out of ideas a bit, which unfortunately reflects a bit poorly on Melty Molten Galaxy, and makes it feel a bit unoriginal and tired out. And the secret star is kinda just whatever too, since all you do is just grab a couple of silver stars on this planet with rising lava tides, and then you're done. If anything, this planet should have been a starship segment that could have been used to build up for an existing mission. Actually, why couldn't this replace the little cinder planet in the second star? To be honest, if it were up for me, I would have preferred the ball segment to be the actual secret star, due to how disconnected it is from anything else in this galaxy. And instead, the remainder of Star 2 would be used to build up for a refight with King Caliante. Again, not only would this mirror back to Good Day Galaxy even more, but Star 2 already feels more like a boss fight build-up, with all the enemies such as Twomps and Bolt Bills you encounter. And the meteors you see throughout the mission are eventually used for King Caliante's battle anyways, so like, it would have been perfect. If this is what Melty Molten Galaxy was more like, I'd have no qualms about giving it an S tier rank. Heck, maybe even a top 1 placement, because it is amazing where it's at. But as it is, I also don't think it quite lives up to the hype, even if I still love the stage. And unfortunately, Ghostly Galaxy kinda finds itself in the same situation, where one mission drags down the rest of the stage. I should clarify that for me, in order for Galaxy to be S tier, all of its stars, excluding Prankster Comets, have to be great enough experiences from start to finish, without feeling wasted or straying too far from what made them special. And at a first glance, Ghostly Galaxy does seem a little more consistent than Melty Molten. The first star is an absolute blast, having explored its giant gravity-scrambled mansion, with even a rare use of the fabled Boo power-up, and the third star has a focus on these explosive bomb boos, eventually culminating in an overrated but still iconic boss battle. Even the secret star slaps with this Matter Splatter mansion. And then the second star is just a race with the speedster. Granted, it is better than the Boo's Boneyard one, because at least the pacing is a little faster with the pole stars, but it still just feels so lame, and just like a pointless gimmick when the other missions were much more intriguing. However, it doesn't take away my enjoyment for the rest of the galaxy. Good lord, is this still one of the most interesting and atmospheric locations to traverse. For where it shines, it's definitely one of the best made linear styled galaxies in the game, and while it would have been even cooler if you could freely roam around this huge mansion, it is still a masterful time for where it's at, and I always look forward to playing it. But with all of that being said, now we have finally reached the S tier galaxies, starting from the top 5. And these are all some of the most thoroughly amazing levels that any Mario game has produced. Nothing is of course perfect, but I could personally not come up with more than just the nitpicks for these levels. Starting with the magnificent Battle Rock Galaxy. As a kid, I didn't really like this stage too much because I thought the name of Battle Rock felt a little too edgy. I don't know why I thought that though, because this galaxy is freaking amazing! I mean, you're infiltrating a giant asteroid fortress. It's the closest Mario will ever come to feeling like a spy, taking down enemy headquarters from within their home base, and it feels so cool. All 3 stars are incredibly varied in their journeys, whether you're on the outskirts, blowing up the interior, or playing around with gravity scrambling in this laboratory-esque sector, and it makes each visit to this galaxy always a blast. Now granted, the Top Maniac is kind of a lame boss, but he's not bad, and still fits the mechanical theming of this galaxy, especially with all the other Topman enemies that build up to him. I guess some people will point to the garbage dump secret star as a big detriment to the galaxy, but while I do think it's a pretty cheap challenge, since as long as you aim for the yellow spots you'll blow up all the rubbish no problem, I think it's pretty harmless in the grand scheme of of Secret Star, so I don't care that much for it. Overall, it's just a really well-rounded galaxy, and it's definitely the point where the first Super Mario Galaxy game starts to become truly epic. But you want to know what's even better than Battle Rock Galaxy? The better Battle Rock Galaxy, also known as just the Dreadnought Galaxy. But yeah, I wasn't exactly exaggerating there. This is pretty much just a sequel to Battle Rock Galaxy in everything but name. It has the exact same soundtrack, boss battle, same Secret Star, and even the structuring of the missions are nearly identical. Yeesh, and yet people say Gold Leaf Galaxy is the unoriginal one. The only difference is that it's way harder and it takes place on a giant rocket ship instead of a fortified space rock. To be honest, while some people may say that this galaxy is kinda lame because of this rehash, I personally just prefer to see it as a late game evolution of Battle Rock's ideas. And considering how great that stage was, why would I ever say no to a galaxy that improves on it? There's generally more hazards and elements to worry about here, and the platforming is much tighter overall. I guess if I had to complain about something, it's that the Speedy Comet is completely useless since the timer is way too generous, resulting in just a lazy refread of a prior mission, but again, that'd be more of a problem if said mission wasn't fun to begin with. And I like that the Secret Star, instead of being locked behind a hungry Luma halfway through the mission, can just be accessed right from the get-go in its host star through a pipe, saving much time as well. So yeah, Dreadnought Galaxy, this one deserves all the praise it can get. I wouldn't blame you if this is your favorite level, as it's pretty kick-ass. At number 3, we have Toy Time Galaxy taking the bronze medal. Now this one is... Nothing quite brings out the inner child in me quite like this gem does. Like, dude, it's a level based on toys, and I f***ing love toys so much. I remember as a kid, I would collect any toy of any brand that I was fixated on at that time, and Toy Time Galaxy just perfectly captures that charm I love about toys. It's such a delectable and vibrant level that scratches every itch of that nostalgic early 2000s era, from the expressive color palette, the fact that the whole stage takes place in a giant playroom, and it just gets so creative with its concepts. I love unscrewing giant colorful mechanisms, I love making my way through sweets and desserts that actually look delicious this time. I love everything here, except the spring mushroom. But honestly, even then, I don't mind it. Sure, it's kinda annoying to have your movement be so bouncy and limited, but I'd also much rather take this over the bee mushroom, because at least bouncing high feels pretty nice. And there is a decent skill curve to using this power up. For all the right this stage does, I can't hate it even if I want to. Even one of the prankster comments is absolutely kingly, namely Luigi's purple coins. Seriously, if you don't like this level, do you even have a soul? But yeah, nothing will ever make me dislike you, Toy Time Galaxy. From this point on though, the top 2 on this list are actually flawless, and the placements from this point on could have gone either way, but as much as I'm passionate for it, I figured that it was more reasonable for second place to belong to Boy Base Galaxy. Ah, so f***ing good. This is easily the best of the mystery galaxies this game has to offer, and it's not even close because it's the only one that actually has more than just 1 star. The fact that the other ones give you no reason to come back to them after you're done with them, as much as they still might be fun galaxies, always cause them to feel kind of irrelevant and trivial in scope. They're just kinda short challenges, but they don't feel like actual stages like the big levels do. A lot of them just feel like filler, that oftentimes don't even feel like actual organic places. But Boy Base Galaxy though, it actually has a secret star on top of the main one. It wants you to go out and explore, leaving a much stronger impression, and making the stage feel more alive. But even if it didn't have a secret star, the main mission it does have is honestly one of the most mesmerizing and epic journeys to come out of this game. Climbing up the enemy-infested tower, floating on a giant buoy in space, while possibly the greatest and most climactic video game soundtrack ever plays, is a truly unforgettable experience, and one I wish I could go through for the first time all over again. I'd say it's embarrassing that so many robust galaxies were beaten out by a smaller one, but honestly, it isn't. This one is just that well developed in its theme and atmosphere. I just wish the level could have been even bigger, because I feel like this sort of idea would have played itself perfectly for a final Bowser level of sorts, or heck, even just any boss related galaxy. Heck, that's probably what this was gonna be at first, considering this galaxy is likely a remnant of the scrapped Starman Fort level. Oh well, at least Super Mario 63 has got me covered on that front. But yeah, while I don't think this galaxy quite deserves number 1 just because it's still small, holy heck is it still absolutely kingly. It's just that when it came to the best galaxy, there really only was one that deserved to be at the top. And my favorite galaxy from not just the first game, but in all honesty, even the entire duology, is and will always be Freeze Flame Galaxy. Even after all of this time, not once has there been a Galaxy from these games that quite nails the balance between consistency, creative level design, atmosphere, or exploration compared to linearity. It might not be the craziest use of combining ice and fire, in fact in the big 2025 this isn't really that unique of a gimmick anymore, but it is still by far the most packed and developed stage making use of it. This level just has so much feels to it, with every star being an impeccable journey from start to finish. The first mission is an introduction to the ice part of the level, having a scale to the peak of a frozen mountain. It's a beauty in terms of its desolate atmosphere, and has some really nifty uses of the creative ice flower power-up, eventually culminating in a boss fight. The second star then takes you for a molten planet core ruin, for a more intense but still calm fire-focused mission, before the third star eventually combines the two. It's an absolutely beautiful progression that not only escalates accordingly the themes of this galaxy, but also capture the melancholy vibes that this game excels at. The secret star especially exemplifies this, where if you make a jump to a very specific cliff, you find a launch star and discover this whole other side of the frozen mountain planet, which you can climb up to the very top of its summit. Never has a Super Mario Galaxy level rewarded me this much for finding a secret while exploring a level. Even though Freeze Flame Galaxy might be a level more focused on the linearity, despite all of that, it's also the stage that best used its explorative elements to their fullest potential, resulting in one of the most emotionally resonant and immersive Super Mario Galaxy levels of all time. It feels empty, not because it doesn't have anything, but precisely because of how alive and well developed each corner of it is. It feels like an actual place, tucked away in the depths of space. Both the frigid wastelands and the blistering core. Maybe I'm just saying this because I'm a travel explorer deep in my heart, and that's why I'm so attached to this level, but honestly, I don't think I'm being over dramatic. This is easily one of my favorite levels to come out of any Mario game, rivaling even the best of Mario Odyssey and Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it's gonna stay on the podium possibly forever. And with that, that finally wraps up my list of all the galaxies of the first Super Mario Galaxy ranked after all this time. And oh my, this is probably the most ambitious project that I've ever put myself to the test through. I knew I'd make a video exceeding 50 minutes in length at some point, and I think this was a very deserving topic to open up that milestone. Although, if I make a Galaxy 2 ranking soon, this one might get dethroned quite quickly, since apparently that one has even more galaxies in total. But actually, I think it will be a while until that, because this was by far the most energy draining video that I've ever done. It's no secret why I had to delay this video's release by several weeks. I was initially gonna put this out on the release day of the Mario Galaxy bundle, but because of how much this burnt me out, I needed way more time to properly collect all of my thoughts. In the end though, I hope all of this was worth it and that you guys had a wonderful time watching this ranking. Let me know in the comment section down below what your ranking of these galaxies might be, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. In the meantime, I'm gonna have to recharge myself. Stay tuned for the next video, and with all that being said, I'm signing off now. Until next time.